Okay, so I'm making this video because apparently, Call of Duty and Battlenet have decided to finally, or Battlenet all on its own, have finally decided to accept prepaid phones for SMS verification for Call of Duty, or all their games, because it came from Battlenet, not Call of Duty. But Call of Duty tweeted it, so I don't really know who it's for. There are multiple reasons why this is an atrocious idea. You can even find my reply to the tweet on the original tweet from Call of Duty. Um, there's no reason why you should be able to use a prepaid phone for Call of Duty or for any other game. For one thing, if you are in the position where you are, allowed to play games or able to play games or anything like that, it should be with parental consent, mostly because most parents either don't care or like enough to say no or to watch it, and the other part of the parenting is the parents that do care and are like, okay, this is acceptable, and those parents generally have good judgment. Um, it's always one of the two. Now, the real problem is that when you have prepaid phones that are allowed instead of just normal registered text, is that you are basically saying we're allowing people to buy Call of Duty accounts for $50. Approximately, because I don't know what a prepaid phone goes for. My first phone was $50, and that was $10 off. That was 10 years ago, probably. I have absolutely no idea what it's worth now. So I don't know what it's worth. I don't know what it costs. But that's basically what they've said, because by allowing that, any idiot can get a phone. Literally, in fact. And when it comes to M-rated games, Call of Duty and all that, I know I was raised this way, and that's not how a lot of people were raised, but I still disagree with it on principle basis. It's not without question for me, because there's mental health and there's all these other reasons. When I originally got my first video game, it was rated teen, and it was 007. I think it was GoldenEye on the Wii, and that was a game that the amount of pinpricking I had to do to my parents and that my dad had to do to himself in order to allow my mom to take me to get the game was absurd. I actually gave up trying to get it, and he eventually folded. That's a true story. And at the time, the game was more violent than what I needed. There was a lot of stuff in that game that I was exposed to, between grenade launchers, RPGs, killing, which was new because there aren't killing in... I don't know how many Wii games actually have killing in them. But there was a lot of elements in that game that were not appropriate for my age group, and they were not something that I had been exposed to, and it was not something I was even very comfortable with. The problem is that I had mental health issues, and that's what the game was for. There's no reason to get it otherwise. And the only reason that it was that game in particular was because I played it at a friend's house, and his parents' rules were much looser. They were a totally different type of family. They weren't the parents that didn't care, but they didn't believe they didn't have the same mindset or belief set. So they had it, and that is how I discovered it. And after that process of having it and being exposed to all of that and all that, when I don't know if it was Black Ops 1 or 2 that came out that I started playing at his house. And then it was, I changed friends, and there was Ghost and MW3 and all that. And, the parenting got worse as I moved on with friends. It just happened to be the way it was. It went from very loose to horrid, and didn't really care. And even if something bothered them, they didn't do anything about it, unless they just could not muster up the courage to say no, with their own issues. So their kids pretty much did whatever they wanted, and that was how I got exposed to pretty much everything actually in my youth was through people. It wasn't through me and my family. And hacking, or at least before I was part of the communities and stuff, because for all I know, this was a massive thing before then. But I didn't know hacking, I didn't know anything when I first started playing these games. I was fresh on a slate, literally, in every definition of the term, every aspect. And it did not, age well, because I didn't know a lot of things. I was the person that was totally pointless in the group because I was useless. Don't ask me any questions. I'm just here to play. But it was all mental health related. None of it would have been allowed if I didn't have those issues. My parents didn't even like me playing them at, other people's houses and stuff because it was still the game and all that. And it was less supervised by them because they gave a damn. It wasn't helicopter parenting. It was, I can't see what is going on, so I do not know if it's remaining to be this way or not. So, I accepted that part. I do still actually agree with that whole concept for, that, my mom had. But, when, an M-rated game, like Call of Duty and Warzone and stuff, especially for the campaign and all that, that has a history of, intense things and events and morals that are very adult. Not in the way that GTA is or anything, but because it's a different, subject set entirely for GTA. But for Call of Duty, it has all those elements still. And it's one of those things where by the time you are old enough to have a cell phone and to be able to use it efficiently, not use it for what you want, but to use it efficiently for making calls and for, messaging your parents and, maybe connecting with friends and all that. Not for playing games and, ditching class. You're not at that age where you should be exposed to that. And I think anyone would agree that being exposed to people's heads getting blown off, or bullets and guns and violence and all of these adult terrorist themes, why the hell would you expose a kid to that? And I don't think anyone can really disagree with that factor. The problem is that I know mental health in that category very well. And when it comes to having the sort of idea of, okay, so we're basically going to allow people that don't have a phone, and this is the only reason I can think of that you would let this that they would make this decision is, someone doesn't have the money for an iPhone or, a Samsung or something like that. The problem with that is that there's a lot of other phones that do that. You do not need to have $1,000 phone. You can get phones for $200 that are smartphones. If it's an Apple one, it won't work still because they're so old. But in general, you can do that. It's not rocket science. I'd still actually prefer to use a flip phone for making calls. I'm old school. I'm young, but I'm old school, so that's just how that is. And that's not a problem. But when you're saying prepaid phones, any idiot can walk into a store and get a prepaid phone. I don't even know if prepaid phones are purely flip phones anymore. Because that's what they were when I was a kid. They were they prepaid flip phones. It's what you got. Flip phones were prepaid phones. You couldn't find one that wasn't prepaid. I don't know if that's changed. I think it has, but I don't know. But in general, it's one of those, what are you exposed to? How mature are their brains? What are they seeing, and what is the impact on them? And I'm sorry, but it had a major impact on me. And I can't believe that this is the right decision to make by any means, because there are so many ways to abuse it. And by so many ways, there's the one main way of people, pay someone to get them a prepaid phone, and then they just, make accounts and sell them. The reason that that's many ways is because of all of the issues that can cause. That can mean that you can have the black market for Call of Duty accounts all over again. And it's like, you want a hacked account? You want to do this? You want to do that? $50. And it's all you. Because all you need is the prepaid phone for that verification, and you're good. And, that might not even be on PC only anymore, because you have been able to plug USBs in the consoles and do things that way. Whether you can now or not, I have no idea. But you used to be able to. So I don't know where the logic comes that they would do this. When they were originally saying that you could not use a prepaid phone, I got mad. And this was before MW2 launched. I got mad when they actually said that they wouldn't. And the reason for that was because it limits the amount of people. Like, if you are someone that happens to have the oldest possible, you don't have any money, but you want to play the game, it means that, for $50 you can play the game and not get kicked or banned. But realistically, that doesn't make sense, because if you are in that situation, one of your priorities for $50 is not going to be playing a game. You're probably not even going to own a console. Like, your priority is not going to be that, so that doesn't even make sense. So there isn't really anything left except for a bit of anger from me from that, and disgust, because that decision makes zero sense to me. I'd like to know what other people think in a structural form, because people are just going to call me a douche. I don't need to know. But I don't see the point. I truly don't. It makes zero sense to me why they would allow this to happen, because they basically just gave people permission to to sell Call of Duty accounts and to hack the game. And that also means that we're going to have to be, reporting players and stuff and hoping that Ricochet works and that the anti-cheat works, which we know from Warzone 1, it was abominable for whatever reason. I don't know why you would spend so much time on that and it doesn't work. So I half believe the fact that it doesn't work, but it's Call of Duty, so, that there's a reputation there. So I really like to know what other people think, because that's my opinion, and I know that I have a solid foundation for it, but it is my opinion. If the reality these days is that, prepaid phones are great with people that don't have enough money, but the people that don't have enough money still have that $50 to spend on Call of Duty, that's a different story, because that means you still have that money and that it is up to you to, spend how you want. So I don't know if it is that way. And it's not, if you don't have money, it's not your priority, end of story. I don't know if that's the case anymore. It used to be. So let me know what you think. And, stay tuned for more videos.